Today we're going to talk about mitochondria's intermittent fasting, HIIT, and how that all promotes your ascension. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Nicole Frolic of Inflexible Me, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about Ascension, but we're going to be talking about the cellular level and how you can increase the light quotient of each of your cells by promoting healthy and functioning mitochondria. We're going to talk about intermittent fasting, and we're going to talk about HIIT, which is high intensity interval training. This is something I've been incorporating into my life for 10 years now, at least the interval training. And I'm going to get into why, and I'm also going to talk about the intermittent fasting, which I started back in 2014 and have been doing for 5 years now, and how it has really helped me have way more energy and help promote longevity of my cells, but also how it helps to increase and expand consciousness by allowing more light in. We're going to talk about all of that. So we're going to go right back to a little bit of science. I'm sure if you all took grade 9 science, you learned about the cells, and you learned about the little mitochondria within each of our cells. And mitochondria are basically the powerhouses of all of our cells, and they're basically what converts all of our food into energy. It's what produces energy for us to do everything. The way that mitochondria takes in food source for us is through sunlight, through oxygen, and through calories. So these are 3 of the ways that our mitochondria use outside sources to convert and produce what is called ATP molecules, which is our fundamental source of energy for everything that we do. Our mitochondria are super important to the functioning of everything in our body. And if you didn't know this, I think this is really cool, that mitochondria are found in 5 to 10 times higher amounts in our brain, in our heart, and for all my females out there, in your ovaries. Now let's think about that for a second. That's very interesting. If you are studying conscious awareness and electromagnetic fields and how we attract things into our energy field, you know that your heart is the biggest battery pack, basically, for all humans. It is what powers you up. It's what brings things in towards you. And the heart is extremely powerful, much more powerful than the brain. But the brain, talk about the brain. The brain houses our pineal gland, and our pineal gland is our main connection to source. It's our third eye. And so when we think about ascension and wanting to bring in more conscious evolution, more conscious awareness, becoming much more aware of everything that is around us, becoming aware of who we are, what our purpose is here in life, also who we are, and in a sense of not who the world wants us to be, but who are we really truly down to a soul level. These are very important aspects within our body that help contribute to that. Now, for my females out there, your ovaries also house much more mitochondria. And if you think about that, the ovaries are so important to gifting life here on Earth. This is where our eggs are stored. And so having a lot of mitochondria, or healthy mitochondria, I should say, promotes fertility. And fertility is so important in the birthing process of all things. If you think about it, it's that starting point of the egg that starts all of creation, okay? And you can take that into a spiritual level and apply it to that as well. Now, there is also a process that happens within the mitochondria called apoptosis. And apoptosis is basically like cell suicide. And when your cells start to break down or get a little bit dysfunctional, the mitochondria are actually I just forgot the word. The mitochondria are the responsible ones for sending out the signals and controlling this cell suicide. So they're in charge of it. And the cell suicide is a great thing because that's what prevents cancer and disease and all those kinds of things. So if these cells aren't dying off and they're sticking around, this is how we age, this is how disease sets in, this is how cancer sets in. So the mitochondria are very important in the process of sending out the signals and also creating enough energy to allow the cell apoptosis to happen. Okay, so it keeps the whole body clear of all of these dead cells or dysfunctional cells. Very important. So this is really cool. Now, if you think about it too, the mitochondria takes in sunlight. We know if you are somewhat spiritually aware, been on this ascension process, you know how important sunlight is to the conscious evolution. You know that the sun is bringing in light, it's bringing in information, it's bringing in light codes that are so important for activating our DNA. Mitochondria are very important to promoting a healthy DNA and keeping our DNA intact. So as we become more aware, you are bringing in more light. You are expanding your light. In order for your cells to hold more light, the mitochondria have to be functioning very well, and they need to be healthy because it takes a lot more production of ATP to be able to hold more light in our cells. Okay, so I want to talk to you guys about 2 things that you can do to help promote healthy mitochondria in your body and will assist you in the ascension process. And the first one is intermittent fasting. Now, back in 2014, I'd been reading a lot about intermittent fasting, and I decided to try it because I noticed that I was having a lot of, I was getting really tired in the afternoon, and my energy levels just weren't great. And also I had been holding on to some weight that I just couldn't lose. And so this was kind of like how I started the reasons why I started my intermittent fasting is I wanted more energy, and I kind of wanted to see if, maybe this is what would start my metabolism. So what's really cool about intermittent fasting is there are 2 ways you can do it. There's one that's a little bit more extreme, and some people work really well with it. It's not the way I do it, but it's called the 5-2 method, where you eat normally for 5 days out of the week, and then 2 days you're just fasting. So just drinking water. And I think that's great. It's not sustainable for me. I love food. I love food. So it's just not conducive to who I am. What is conducive to who I am, though, is the intermittent fasting that allows you to only eat within a certain time frame in the day. So basically you choose like a 6 to 8 hour window every day of when you're eating, and then you don't eat anything outside of that window. So I kind of start eating around 11 a.m. and I'm usually done by 7 p.m. Sometimes I won't eat till 12. I kind of just see how my body's feeling. I play with it, and so I don't keep it super strict, but I've been doing this for 5 years now, and so I just kind of listen to my body. Now, what's really cool about intermittent fasting is that it puts your body into fat burning mode. And how does that happen? Your body is usually using glucose to burn in its metabolism to give you energy. But as soon as you don't eat for 8 hours, your body switches into fat burning mode. Okay, it uses fat as a fuel source, which is very beneficial to your mitochondria. When the mitochondria when your body is using glucose, okay, as energy, it's a lot more. It's a lot harder on the mitochondria. It creates more free radicals. There's more oxidative stress. It's just a lot harder on your mitochondria when you're using glucose. It is a lot easier on your mitochondria when you're burning fat as a fuel source. So the mitochondria actually become less stressed when you're in a fat burning mode. So the trick is to not eat for 16 hours, okay, so that you can have 8 hours of fat burning time to kickstart your body into that. And then when you start eating, your metabolism is more likely to use your fat as fuel source than your carbohydrates, your glucose. So your mitochondria is super much more happier. Let's just put it that way. Your mitochondria is a lot happier when you're in fat burning mode. And also just from if you're looking to lose weight, okay, if you've put on a few extra pounds, or you're not happy, or you're just feeling really sluggish, this is a great method. I love this method. It's so sustainable. I've been doing it for 5 years, and It's to the point now where I don't even think about it. It's just normal to me. Now, here's another thing. I noticed since I started doing this, and also since I guess late 2016 is when I started to have another burst of awakening, and it's kind of been going on for the last couple of years, where I noticed, I switched to vegetarian. Sometimes I'll eat a little bit of fish when I feel like my body really needs it, but for the most part, I'm vegetarian. And I noticed that I didn't need to eat as much food. Now, we know there are a lot of people who talk about how food is very dense, and there's people who talk about breatharianism and all of that. And I'm not saying that you need to go to that, but I'm just saying there's something to be said about the fact that as your body holds more light, you are producing more energy. You're using light as a food source, okay? Your mitochondria are using that more. As you bring in more light into your cells and you hold more light into your cells, you find that you actually don't need to eat as much. And the mitochondria actually benefit from this. They benefit from a lower calorie intake. I'm not saying go starve yourself, but this is why the mitochondria actually benefit from fasting, because when you have this lower caloric intake, it's less stress on the body. And you just find, I feel like we've been programmed as a society that we need to eat like this many meals, or it's got to be like 6 small meals or whatever. And, to each their own, because every one of our bodies is very different. So you kind of really have to play with this and find out what works for you. But there's something to be said about the fact that, do we really need to eat that much? Or is it something that we've been programmed to believe, and it kind of like plays into this belief system, and we start believing that we need to eat it. And so we're eating when we think we have to, but not really listening to our bodies. This is something that we become a lot more aware of as we move through a spiritual awakening, become more evolved in our conscious awareness. It's because we're paying attention to everything now, including the signals from our body and how our body communicates with us. Now, the other thing that I've been doing is high intensity interval training, otherwise known as HIIT workouts. Now, I do this with my running, and I do this with my weight workouts, my body workouts. And I've been doing this since 2009. So it's been 10 years now that I've been doing that. And the reason why this is beneficial to the mitochondria is because it creates this change of environment that the mitochondria responds really well to. Okay, constantly, when you have this constant aerobic type exercise where it's more like you think about long distance running, or a workout that doesn't really get you up really high and down really low. This is very beneficial to the mitochondria. So they've done studies, and they found that mitochondria production increases. There are, like, in a sense that there's more mitochondria that actually start to produce themselves in the body in older people by 69% when they're doing HIIT, okay, high intensity interval training. And for younger people, it's 49% more production. So that's huge. That's a big jump. So as we get older, mitochondria production decreases. This is also a sign of aging. It's also a sign of disease starting to set in, okay? It's when the body's starting to break down. Our mitochondria production goes, it decreases. So there's correlation to that. So when we are doing high intensity interval training, then that is actually promoting not just longevity of the cells, but it's also promoting higher function of the cells. So it's really important so that you can bring in more light for you and keep the body super high vibe and healthy. So if you're going to do high interval training, what I do is I usually will do 3 to 5 sets of workouts, and in each set I'll have maybe 5 to 6 exercises that I do, and I get them high intensity, and I do them one after the other, and then I take a 1-minute break, and then I go right back into the next one, and I do those cycles. Now for interval running, what I do is the way I started is I would do 3-minute intervals, and within each interval I would do 90 seconds of faster running than I would normally do, and then 90 seconds of really fast walking. Okay, so this keeps the body like constantly, it's so good for your metabolism. It's so good for your metabolism. So it really puts you more into fat burning mode. This is what HIIT interval training does, okay, high intensity interval training. So I would either do 8 to 10 intervals, 3-minute intervals where I'm doing that. I've now worked up, because I've been able to build up my endurance and all of that. I now am almost at 2 minutes where I'm running, and then 1 minute. I'm just under the 2 minutes. I'm about 1minute 50 seconds, and then 1minute 10 of really fast walking. And so I'll do about 8 or 9 intervals of that. I'm really trying to get up to 9 right now, so 27 minutes. This is super good for you, because the one thing that I love about this interval training is it really helps to promote youth, keeps you younger, because when you start doing really long training, whether it's like marathon training, and this is not to say you should never run a marathon, but I'm just saying like it puts a lot of stress on the body, and it puts it in a constant aerobic state, which isn't good for the mitochondria. So you're in you need more glucose. You're not in fat burning mode. And so again, I talked about this earlier, the fat burning mode is very ideal for mitochondrial health. It also, when you're promoting to go back to intermittent fasting, I forgot to tell you guys this, intermittent fasting also promotes telomere lengthening. I've done 3 videos on telomere lengthening, guys. If you haven't, go check them out. It's on my homepage. I've organized them all for you guys. And I talk about how telomere lengthening is completely correlated to our youthful appearance, longer lifespan, higher health, just overall feeling a lot better. So as we go through this beautiful awakening ascension process, evolving our minds, evolving our souls, and wanting to allow our bodies to move more into a place that is supported of 5D heart structure, you're bringing in more light, your body's holding more light. In order for it to do that, the mitochondria need to be producing more ATP. In order for the mitochondria to be producing more ATP, you need to be doing some stuff that helps that. And so these are 2 ways, the intermittent fasting and the HIIT are 2 ways that you guys can do that in your day-to-day life that is very tangible and very easy to wrap your heads around. This isn't like woo-woo stuff, although I know like the background topic of it is kind of like woo for some people, but I don't really give a shit. This is what we're here to talk about, and this is like so important to me. And so if you're watching this channel, I'm pretty sure that this is something that's interesting to you. So guys, that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. If you need any more information about me, please head on over to my website, inflexibleme.com. I have a newsletter there you can sign up to. I also have a podcast called Enlighten Up that comes out every Thursday in iTunes. I'm really excited. We're going to have some really cool guests coming on in May, and I'm hoping to lock in a guest that I want to bring him on the channel and have a very important discussion. I know is super controversial right now, but I think it needs to be had. I think it's being pushed under the rug, and I think a lot of people are scared to talk about it because of the PC culture we live in, and people are losing lives over it. So I'm hoping to get that on the channel soon. Guys, I love you so much. If you need any assistance on your path and you want to work with me, all that information is in the description below. You can do tarot readings, coaching, mix of the 2. I'd love to work with you. Guys, I love you so much. Mwah. I will be back very soon with your readings for the month of May, the crystal card reading and your tarot readings. Talk to you soon.